foster care isn't easy. Like, I mean, that's obvious.
No.
I mean, our kiddos have had years of trauma, and that'll come out in their behavior. At our volunteer training for our camp volunteers, we say all the time, our kids are not their behavior. Like,
Right.
however they're acting is just an indication, like we say, the tip of the iceberg of what's going on in their brain and bodies, and is what's going on under the water of the iceberg. So the behavior is just the out, and it's maladaptive, but it's how they've learned to survive. And
Right.
so our kids get labeled aggressive and attention-seeking or manipulative. And
This, my friends, is Jess McCloud, and we're going to have a conversation today about a lot of different things, but mostly about the organization that she is leading. But let's start here first, Jess. Let's start with you and who you are. I said when we were talking just a little bit ago, you're a little daunting. What I mean is, when I'm around you, I feel like I'm always one step behind. Like, you are so well prepared and so well spoken, and you know what you think, you know what you want, you know what you're after. A lot of people aren't like that. So who are you, and how did you get to be this way? What do you like? What do you like?
I like, I guess, Jesus, and then my husband, the best, and spending time with him. We love hiking, the beach. I love the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. You didn't grow up here. You grew up somewhere else. Whereabouts did you start out at?
Born in Tucson, and then by elementary school, like San Francisco area, by high school, Bay Area. That's where I met my husband.
Yeah. And how long have you been married?
2004, so this will be 20 years married, 27 years together.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yes, I just realized how old I am.
Do you like being married?
To him, yeah.
Well, of course, I meant to him.
I tell him he's the best husband I've ever had. He's my only husband.
That's awesome. What do you guys? What do you have in common? What's the thing that holds you together besides Jesus? Don't give me the Sunday school answer. What's the thing that holds you together?
We really like each other.
Yeah?
I don't know, even if it's just both of us working on our laptops, we just like to be together. We both work from home, so that was nice. But it does feel like you never even saw each other all day, even though you're near each other. But we both really love hiking. We love traveling. And then when we travel, we hike. So we just like to explore the land and the area a lot.
And this is a great place for that.
Yeah.
Because you can do so much. Yeah. It's so close. Everything's so close. And like today, there was a little bit of, there hasn't been any rain today, but there's a little sun today. Mm-hmm. Feels like winter's almost over. And I'm really happy about that. Yeah. It feels really good. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the organization that you lead for the children / Royal Family Kids Camp. I just recently came to know about what Royal Family Kids Camp is about, because you've been being a lot more, it seems like a lot more open with the other churches in this last couple of years about who they are and what they do. This chapter here in Cowlitz County started in 2018.
That was our first summer
camp.
Yeah.
And so have you done 4 summer camps or 5?
2018, 2019, a one-day day camp in 2021, and then we came back in 2022 and 2023. And then we'll have,
So the one-day camp was for COVID.
Yeah.
Must have been a crazy year for you.
Yeah, DCYF wouldn't let us all go away, sleep in the same room together, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that. What's the organization? Let's start back up a little bit. Where did you first get connected with them, and how?
Netflix.
No way.
It came up as a recommended movie for me. I don't know why they thought I would enjoy this movie. It's called Camp, and the screenwriter was really a volunteer at a real chapter. The first chapter started in 1985 in Southern California, so the organization's been around a long time. But and then his day job is a screenwriter, so he was led to make a movie about it. Every once in a while, we will do a fundraiser to show it. So we've showed it at the Roxy, we've showed it at Valley Christian Fellowship, we've shown it at Kelso Theater Pub last year, and I do tell people, it's Hollywood's version, so we do not go on dates once the kids are asleep at night at camp. And
oh, wow.
They tie in a little romance in there, but and the main camp counselor guy, he's awful and horrible, and so we don't let people like that come. He didn't read the manual, he didn't go to training, anything like that. So we're very intentional with who has access to
Yeah, he would never make it with your camp.
No, but I saw the movie and just felt like I want to go serve at a camp for kids that are from hard places, and I looked online and couldn't find anything in the Southwest Washington area. But when you Google summer camp foster kids, Royal Family Kids came up. And later found out there are a couple chapters in the Portland area. But my husband thinks that was a God thing, because if I'd found them, I would have just served there. And then we have no other offering like this for kids in foster care in Southwest Washington. So now we have our chapter, at least.
So you saw the movie. Have you told them yet that that's how you got linked up as a leader?
Told who?
Because that's a great story for the larger organization.
To the national office? Yeah, there's a couple that have come through that. So yeah, when I'm on some committees with them and stuff, and so when we go around introducing ourselves, they love to hear that the movie had that
I bet they did.
Yeah. Because most directors, you come up through the ranks of having served at one. So I went away to director's training and came back, and I'm just supposed to lead one with never having been to one. Director's training was at a real camp in Omaha. It was half classroom learning and half observation, but that's not the same as living it. So I've been serving as camp counselors at other chapters. Like the first year I came back a week before we went to our camp. I went up to Bellingham's chapter. And so, but that's my why, is the kids. And so to be a camp counselor, that fills my bucket and sets me up for the whole rest of the year of just admin stuff. Because at camp, being director is the worst, I feel like. You're not hands-on with the kids. You're just dealing with logistics and putting out fires and stuff. And so it's a blessing to be able to be a counselor. But yeah.
Well, some people lead organizations, other people own organizations. Mm-hmm. You seem to be fully invested in this one. You don't have any kids of your own. You have a foster child that's living with you now. And that's a decision that you've made with your husband. So this is really a way to engage with a lot of children and not necessarily raise them on your own, but be in their lives in a profound way. That's got to be so fulfilling for you. I mean, part of the reason you got into this was because you care about the kids, or maybe that's all the reason you got into it for. Maybe it wasn't about leadership at all, but you find yourself as a leader now, and you're leading people into something that you totally believe in. How did you get there where you just I'm in this thing. I believe this thing with all my heart.
How did I get to the belief part, or to the leader part?
The belief part. I know how you got to the leader part. They said, anybody want to lead? And you said, nobody put their hands up, and they said, you can lead now.
When you come to your pastor with is this along the mission of our church? And they're like, yes, go do it. Because it's not like they have all these volunteers on standby waiting to come serve. So they're like, if it's your idea, you get to do it. I don't know. They just captured my heart. I guess I've always had a soft spot for anyone going through a hard time, especially as a kiddo. It's through no fault of their own. And I mean, I talk a lot about if you see the statistics on the back of our flyer, they're just the paths that too many of them end up going down, again, through because of people's bad choices around them, right? I hate that they're set up for that outcome, and this is our chance to, when you think of when I think of those 80% of the inmates sitting on death row who spent time in foster care, I picture that stereotypical big burly scary kind of guy, murderer or something, but then I picture him as a 7-year-old, and I think if someone had stepped into it, they weren't born a murderer, they weren't born, wanting to go down these dark paths. It's just the families or lives they were born into, and that's just what becomes their norm. And I know some of our kiddos, they get placed in foster homes, and even if it's a good home, because some get placed in ones that then they get abused in their foster homes too, but the goodness of and the niceness of the foster families or people they go to church with feels fake to them. They feel like everyone around is that niceness can't be real because it's so foreign. Because
they're protecting themselves.
They are, and it's just they've never encountered that. They've had years of abuse, and cops have come out and they explained away the marks of their strangle marks on their neck, and the cops didn't take them into custody. Teachers didn't call or something, and they just keep getting let down over and over, and it's how can there really be these people must be fake because they can't be this nice or something. And so we've had some adoptive families, because any kiddo that comes to our camp has either in or spent time in foster or kinship care, and so some of them, that means they've been adopted. We recognize that the trauma they've gone through didn't disappear the day they were adopted. That's going to live with them, that they have to work through their whole lives. Some of us have been in therapy for years, and we didn't go through the trauma that they went through. But we've had some adoptive parents say, I want them to know there are good people out there, because they've had such too many experiences with bad people.
Yeah. Well, I read the statistics that you're talking about in your online when I was doing a little bit of research on the organization that you're part of, that you're leading. And this is just crazy. 50% of girls in foster care are pregnant by 19.
And that's with not supportive, loving families to fall back on, yeah.
74% of prison inmates were once in the foster care system. 50% of young adults incarcerated within 2 years of aging out. 50%. And 80% of death row inmates are former foster care children. I would have never thought it was that high in any of those areas. And I think that there's a lot of people who just don't realize the tragedy of what's going on in the city that they live in. Because we're not talking about inner city Chicago. We're talking about a cross-section of all the people. How is Cowlitz County doing as far as fostering goes? Can you have a sense of that?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some like monthly meetings we've been a part of at Department of Children, Youth, and Families office, and one of the biggest pushes is always recruiting and retaining more foster families,
right.
And good ones, because we've had campers that have come to camp that were abused by the foster families that they were placed with originally, so we do always need. Sometimes we have kids that come into care. Like the report just came in. The police just brought them to DCYF, and there isn't a bed open in Cowlitz and Wahkiakum counties. And so the CALSO office serves Cowlitz and Wahkiakum, and so they'll have to go. They'll place them in Puyallup or Olympia or down in Vancouver or wherever the closest open bed is. Even if that means splitting up a sibling group, and it's obviously traumatic enough to leave the family, regardless of how they were treated, that's normal to them, and that's their parents or whoever it is, and so they most of the time always just want to get back there. But it means changing schools. Maybe school was the one respite for them with a friendly teacher face, so they have to go to a new school, new city often, and so we always definitely need more foster families.
It seems like that. It seems like, if anything, coming out of COVID, fostering has probably paid a huge price, because there was a lot of shakeup in COVID and people reevaluating their lives, reevaluating what was important to them. Imagine there's some people who were all in with foster care, and now they're kind of going, maybe this is a good opportunity to back off a little bit. And maybe it's a good time for people to jump in too. So I'm not quite sure. It's really hard, honestly, to get a sense of what's going on in our own community as far as foster care goes. I know people who do foster care and kids who are in foster care, but I don't have no idea of the volume that we're talking about here in our own city.
Yeah, well, and some people get licensed just for certain ages of children, and so that means that even if there is an open bed, if the child doesn't meet that criteria, then they're shipped out to a different county or something. But foster care isn't easy. That's obvious.
No.
Our kiddos have had years of trauma, and that'll come out in their behavior. At our volunteer training for our camp volunteers, we say all the time, our kids are not their behavior.
Right.
However they're acting is just an indication, like we say, the tip of the iceberg of what's going on in their brain and bodies, and is what's going on under the water of the iceberg. So the behavior is just and it's maladaptive, but it's how they've learned to survive. And
right.
So our kids get labeled aggressive and attention-seeking or manipulative, and it's like, whatever it is, they're we have a lot of science trauma-informed training that go into this for our camp volunteers, but their amygdala at the base, at the top of their spine, at the base of their brain, is overdeveloped. That's that watchdog that's constantly scanning their environment. Am I safe? And what do I need to do to survive? And whether it's
right.
stealing to get food or something to sell to be able to, or buy their food, go into the neighbors and knocking on the door because my cupboards are bare. We've had some that had to drink out of the toilet bowl to get water. But the prefrontal cortex, that's where your higher processing skills are, where that's use your words, or you don't just hit just because someone bumps you in the line for lunch or something.
Right.
That's so underdeveloped, and because just the whole years of development, that's not gotten the workout that the watchdog, the amygdala, has. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger strong back there, right? It's
right.
just, and so they haven't been mentored and taught how to use your words when you're upset, or how to get your needs met in a healthy way. And so there are, and I feel like foster care is its own ministry in itself, but it's worth. And so one of the most common things is people say, "I'd get too attached," and
right.
I'm like, "Don't our kids deserve that?"
Yeah.
What kid doesn't deserve someone to feel attached to them or to love them, because so many of our kiddos don't have that. And I feel like it's a small price for us to pay, and like for our kids to, like, should they go to a home that doesn't care, that's indifferent or abusive to them or something? Like, I get it. It's hard and it's heartbreaking to like whatever happens to the kiddo, if they're reunited with a bio family, that's usually a better outcome for them. Like, I mean, kids that are adopted or just, they're always have that thing in them, like, what was wrong with me that my mom cared more about her drugs than me, or like couldn't get this together to, like, they're always going to have something, you know, what was wrong with me, or like, what did I do wrong or something? And so if the bio family can get into a healthy place to be able to provide a safe and loving home for their kiddo, that usually statistically works out better for them. But it's hard as a foster family sometimes to watch the kids go back. And then we've had a camper who mom did the steps and got him back and then gave him up again, like just that cycle of it. But our kids, I don't know, sorry, I can go on a long time.
No, it's obvious that you really care. Yeah. I mean, it's obvious. It's in your expression. It's in your voice. There, you know, firsthand, because you've had conversations with kids, and also people who work with them, the tragedy that's surrounding them. But you step back a little bit, Jess, and you look at the bigger picture, and all that's true. And Royal Family Kids Camp can't fix any of that, but you can do a couple things. You can give those foster parents a rest, a break. Yeah. And you can give the kids a break. And so everything that's about Royal Family Kids Camp is respite, you know, except for the people who are working like you, the volunteers who work really hard. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the training that goes behind it, because I think some people would think, oh yeah, they just invite a bunch of kids to camp and they let them play. Yeah. Not like that.
I had someone say, this isn't just VBS. And it's really not just, it's not a camp for church
Not even
kids.
VBS.
Well, I mean, it's the part of VBS where we're giving them the message of the gospel. We've got the music and the motion. So they go home with the VBS style, like music. I was speaking at Three Rivers Christian School's chapel today, and the worship band was leading, and I saw some of the kids doing the motions of whatever song. I was like, that's how it is at camp. But and we send the kiddos home with like MP3 players so that they go home listening to the same song, and like so it just stays in them hopefully. But at volunteer training, we have the gambit. I asked this question on our a video that we put together of testimonies from our volunteers, like, what were your first thoughts after training? And some, I remember Shauna Munson over at Shekinah, she's like, I was scared to death. They're telling you all the things and all the things and all the things and all the things. And it's a common thing. We had someone else, he and his wife have fostered and adopted out of foster care for a couple decades. And he's like, this is the first time I felt like I might not be equipped or prepared. Like and then we have others that are like 20-year-olds going, I thought it was good. It was good info.
Yeah.
I think. And I had Andrew Wynn, associate pastor at Valley. He's like, I think it's a good balance of like I try to paint an honest picture. I don't want anyone going into camp thinking it's going to be rainbows and unicorns. The kids should just be grateful they're here and they're going to be on their best behavior. And, I don't, we're all going to get along and be best friends. Cause we had an 18-year-old camp counselor crying by the first night at camp because she washed her face and at nighttime and came back out and her camper was like, oh, you're ugly without your makeup. And these are 12-year-old girls like testing you because you're acting like you're nice and that you'll care about them. But will you be that way if I show you my true self, or if I because other people haven't come back when I push them away, or they reject me before I finally get comfortable in this foster home and then I'm moved to another foster, so there's a lot of testing that does go on. Andrew's like, I think it's a good training to prepare you for worst case scenario, and then you get to camp and they're just kids, they're just, and he said this after his first year of training, and after first year of camp, and then at the first night of his second year at camp, counselors only have a break from 8:30 at night to 10:30 at night. So all day they're on 22 hours of the day, because then after the break they go and back to the cabins and they sleep in the same cabins with the kids. And if a kid has to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom or has a stomach ache, you're their parent, you're on. But that first night of his second year, he was coming out of the staff lounge at the very beginning, and he goes. When he had his backpack on, he's like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you coming back? Like, he looked like he's packed up leaving. He goes, yes. So his first year, he had great kids. They bonded. I think he even said, like, Jonah came off the bus. We did the royal welcome. He came up to me and he farted. I farted. I knew we'd get along. And like, he's just, goofy, and he gets along with our kids. But the second year, one of the boys, because each camp counselor is only assigned 2 campers. Right. And one of his boys were one that his application was pulled the first year because of his behaviors. DCYF said he wasn't in a place that could come. And I remember thinking, like, we're equipped for this. Like, this is what we trained for. A lot of foster families will say, no other camp kept them all week. They called us to come get them, but you guys kept them. And so I remember saying, I wish that they'd sent them. And so he's the one that Andrew
got blessed with one of them. Yeah.
And so, that camper's 2 brothers were there, and he didn't get to go the first year. And the 3 of them are in different homes. None of them are together. And so that second year, they all 3 got to be together. And so I think framing it that way, like, our counselors, we don't tell them everything that was on the camper application, that this kid was kidnapped and these girls were sex trafficked by their dad, or I don't want to burden them with that stuff. But then sometimes when they're struggling because they're just seeing behaviors, and it's like I'll give them a little glimpse of it. Sometimes I feel like softens our hearts, and just seeing the need behind the behavior too. Like, what is this behavior expressing? So we talk a lot about that at volunteer training. Like being detectives, is this kiddo? We talk about the difference between being safe and feeling safe. Like, we know we've put all the safeguards into place to kind of keep the predators out. But until the kiddo feels safe, they're not going to just go, oh, you say I'm safe, so I can act safe, until they really feel that in their, and we talk a lot about it's TBRI, trust-based relational intervention. Yeah. And the heart of that is connection with our kids. So we really try to invest heavily in the front end of finding things in common, like bonding with our kiddos. The more connected you are with them, usually you have less behavior issues. You're earning their trust. Yeah. And so they can feel safer sooner, and then we don't have as many behavior. Our kiddos still have a lot of triggers. We train a lot about you can never be prepared for what the trigger is. You might have been best friends the day before at camp, and then last night you took a shower, and the smell of your shampoo is the same brand that their predator used. And so, or, whatever it is, like you're wearing a red shirt with this Nike logo, and that's what a predator, and so, like, just that we say all the time, camp is for the kids. It's not about us and our egos, and we just try to take ourselves out of it. And if that means me recognizing I'm the one causing the issues, then I just tag out and I'm like, hey, can you hang out with her today? Because I think I might be the one triggering her. And, we have a lot of teachers that volunteer because they have summers off and a heart for kids. And so sometimes they know them from camp or from school. And I've had one of our care team volunteers, we're the ones that come in with the high behavior needs. If a counselor's feeling out of their depth, like, I don't know how to handle this, they can call the care team. But one of my care team members came to me and goes, I trigger him because I've had him in the behavior classroom. Yeah. So I am reminding him of every time he got in trouble at school. And so just recognizing that and just finding better ways to support, like switching out. So.
Speaking of behaviors, what's a runner?
Really? It's literally.
It's not an exercise program, right?
No, it's what it sounds like. Literally, a kiddo, if they have a certain trigger, some kids, their default thing is to just run. They just leave. And so we all have walkie-talkies at camp. And so we just say, I've got a runner. He's leaving chapel, heading towards the bike barn. And we just keep the channel open and just keep it so that anyone knows where he's at now. And we've just got a whole crisis response protocol for that kind of thing. And our goal is not to make them feel chased. And so sometimes I talk about, like, just jogging alongside them. I'm not even trying to stop them, as long as I have other eyes on me, because no adult can ever be alone with a child. I'm just like, hey, Joey, where are we going to today? You just feel like, right? A part of TBRI is bringing it all back to playfulness. Playfulness disarms fear. And so if you can get them, like, a kiddo cannot feel safe. You can't simultaneously feel playful and scared. And so if I can switch that part in his brain and, like, just start making it playful, and I'll even be like, hey, let's see if we can do a loop around here. And that way I get him to run back towards where everyone else was. With one kiddo, she just, she's not a runner, she's a walker. She just takes off. And so we've learned different tricks. Like, I'll call her Janie, like, Janie, freeze. like, and she likes that game. Teeny, can you walk backward? You know, like just as playfully as we can, not shaming them. Like, these are behaviors that have adopted for a reason for them. But then we also do talk, like with our runner especially, like figuring out what triggered him. You know, can you tell me what happened? And then, you know what you can do the next time that happens? Like, you can tell, because his counselor's right there with me. You can tell Dan how you're feeling, and you can say, I feel overwhelmed. We have a lot of sensory accommodations we do, whether it's noise canceling headphones or fidgets or even like we can just go stand in the back, or we can go for a walk. That's okay, but we need you to be safe. And so you just tell your counselor, and he will get another, you know, extra support staff, and you guys can just go for a nature walk, you know, whatever it is. And so we're more about connection over compliance. It's not school. It's not sit there, be quiet, and listen to the Bible teacher. You know, like if that doesn't happen, we're Jesus to them on a nature walk. Like, they don't have to be sitting there hearing the Bible story to experience Jesus too. And so there's just, for each kiddo, we try to accommodate what they need the most.
I imagine a lot of your volunteers are parents.
Some of them.
Yeah. And so they bring their own parenting model into the whole picture, at which this sounds like retraining that you're talking about. Now, these aren't your kids. These aren't your homegrown kids. These are kids who have been through a lot. Mm-hmm. And you, obviously, have done a really good job of preparing. In fact, let's just pretend nobody else is listening to this, but are all the other chapters this well-informed and well-prepared as far as giving volunteers a good picture of what's going on? Because this seems really detailed. Yeah. Well, you're really good at this.
I'm detailed. I will also say, like, my first year, when I went to director's training, was like the first year the national office was incorporating TBRI. And so, like, from the start, I had that more trauma-informed lens in my class. And I think I might have been the only one at director's training that was starting a new chapter too. So a lot of other people in the director's training are bringing up the mantle, like, you know, it's being passed on to them. So I feel like our chapter had the blessing of being able to start like that. Others have been around for 35 years, and I do cringe sometimes when I serve at some of the other ones. Like, we train our volunteers. You don't go up for a high five at a kiddo who's been abused, especially when you're this tall and he's this tall. We talk a lot about getting down on their level, kneeling down, and low fives, not high fives, or like low fist bumps. Because even a fist bump like this, that's just still coming at your face. Yeah. And so, but just like being that self-awareness. But I served at one a couple summers ago. The grandma, I mean, it's harder to deprogram octogenarians too, I feel like. But
watch it.
Well, the camp grandma, because we have camp grandma and grandpa, camp aunt and uncle. So the camp grandma, one of my girls was crying, and we'd already dealt with it. It was another camper did something that she thought that other camper and her were best friends, and the other camper did something that really hurt her feelings, and my camper's just really sensitive. And so she was feeling her feelings, but we're sitting in Bible chapel, we're listening to the story, but she's still just crying, and I've done everything, and it's kind of the point where, like, I get to the point where I'm like, don't talk to me, don't be nice to me, I'm gonna cry more, you know, so I'm sitting next to her, but Camp Grandma just couldn't let her sit there like that, so she comes up and just takes her head and puts it right here, and I'm just like, this is
cringing.
So inappropriate, like, our kids have had things done to their bodies that were out of their control. So I am not going to take a kiddo's body and put it anywhere. Like, we also are not allowed front hugs. We're only allowed side hugs, and we let the kids initiate that too. And we even we've had to talk about what happens when the kid just comes running towards you, full on. Yeah. And so we play act it in volunteer training. I usually have my husband come up so that we can practice, like, because especially like if I'm this tall and the boy, you know, camper wants to come up and hug me, I don't even do a side hug with him if he's like at this level. Right? Yeah. I bend my knees so we're head to head level, you know, kind of a thing. But so there are some others that, but we have a lot of volunteers. Even Jeannie Norton is principal at elementary campus, came up to me to talk at TRCS's chapel when I spoke today, because she was a first-time volunteer last year, and so she knows a lot of the kids at TRCS. And she was saying that, I forgot what I was going to say.
Side hugs, front hugs, full hugs.
I totally forgot.
How to handle kids that are coming right at you.
Yeah, no, it wasn't even about, that she wished that she had learned these things when she was a teacher. We've had so many volunteers say, I wish that I knew when I was a parent and like their grandparent age, I wish I knew when my grandkids were younger. Like Jackson Gillihan's a teacher at TRCS. He's been one of our volunteers since 2018. And he was saying right away he put into practice in the classroom. So,
well, pastors could use it a little too.
Well, and that's like one thing that, so Jeannie asked me to do a TBRI training for all of her staff, open all her staff in the community, and we sent out the email to all of KLMA also, just and I subject worded that as kids ministry, because they talk about too, like, it's great that our volunteers are trained like this, but then our kids go to school with teachers that maybe aren't trauma informed. They go to Sunday school with people that aren't trauma informed. And some of the hardest volunteers to like deprogram, reprogram are ones that have worked in Sunday school, kids church, like for years and years. And a lot of them will say like, "Oh, he just needs a hug." And like the first training session I did for Jeannie for TRCS is the TBRI trauma. We've talked about how when kiddos are like, especially those like that are in orphanages, where there is no touch, they're just left in their cribs to cry, or those that maybe were born prematurely and spent time in the NICU, or had other health problems that they were left in the hospital for a long time. Their brains were wired that all touch, if it happened, which if they're left in an incubator, a long time, they didn't have a lot of it, was painful. Like whether it's the the IVs or surgeries or anything like that. And so their brains are wired that it doesn't matter if you're hugging them or just like put whatever it is, their brains just feel all touch is painful. And so they're TBRI, where we've learned it from. We have some videos from it's out of the Karen Purvis Institute of Child Development at Texas Christian University, and they have a lot of different videos like interviewing adoptive families and showing how like interactions with the kids, like how to put these things into practice. And there's an adoptive mom crying. She's like, I just was trying to love on her, and my hugs were like physically like harmful to her but the way God's made our brains is amazing. Like it can be rewired. It just takes intentionality you can't just rewire it by hugging them out of it. Like that's not the way to fix it, but there are ways to.
So let's I think we could do this for a long time. I think you can go on for a long. No, it's really good. But let's kind of wrap it up here. Let's say you're preparing for the summer's camp right now, trying to get volunteers, get things organized, and get things rolling in the right direction. Let's just say a couple weeks from now you find out you have more volunteers than you can use. And at the same time, you have more money than you've ever had before, more money than you can even spend. What would you do?
Wake up, because I'm sure I'm dreaming. So, I mean, one thing I say...
Maybe you should dream a little.
One thing I say all the time is that it's the number of volunteers we have for our chapter that's limiting how many campers we can serve. Yeah. And every year we're turning away, like we waitlist them, and then we just have to turn them away. Because if kiddos don't show up at camper registration, we can pull them up from the wait list, or if they get sick or whatever. But every year we've turned away boys and girls who need to meet Jesus and their brothers and sisters in Christ. And so
you have more volunteers than you can need.
In this dream, I would still take them, because any volunteer who's been to camp will tell you it's the best, worst week of your life. It's exhausting. Yeah. It's hard emotionally. That's what makes it the worst. But if the more volunteers we have there, the less exhausting it would be. So.
Well, yeah, the numbers are, what is it? 92 kids last year and 50 volunteers?
No,
or is that the year
never
before?
Been able to take that many. We started with 24 kiddos, and the most I think we've taken is 32. So I think we had 31 last year.
And how many volunteers did?
50. And they're still 50 exhausted adults at the end of the week. So, I mean, VBS is like half a day usually, and then you go home, you sleep in your own bed, you get rest. And so at our camp, like, you're sleeping in a room with other people, some snore, some on CPAP machines, like even your nighttime rest isn't always. But when you have kiddos that are prone to waking up with nightmares and stuff, so not all of our volunteers sleep in the cabins with the kids. Yeah. So we do have just adult cabins, adult-only ones. But no, I would take pretty much.
So you would have... No matter how many volunteers you have, there's kids to take care of that need.
Right now, that's where we're at. Some chapters, their limiting factor is money. Right now, God has blessed us that we have the funds. We're just limited by volunteers.
Very cool.
That might change from year to year, but that's where we're at right now.
Well, my hope is that this year will be different. Yeah. You'll have the volunteers that you hoped for. Yeah. Because those two things, volunteers and money, are just the two things that you depend on, and it's all dependent on people's generosity, in both ways. Their generosity in releasing finances, but also generosity in giving their time up, because it's not just going to the camp, it's preparing to go to the camp. So how can people contact you? How can they get a hold of you?
Our website is forthechildrencowlitz.org. and our phone number and email are all on there. It all comes to me. But
Yeah.
phone number is 971-225-7352.
Yeah.
But you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram too. We have an email list where the beginning of every month, which I'm late, it should have gone out yesterday, but I
You'll
don't.
get on
I don't.
it. You were a
meet
little
all my
busy
deadlines.
today.
But our monthly newsletter says all of our upcoming events with links to apply or serve or like get in touch with us how you'd like to serve. So
Yeah.
and that newsletter is also posted on our Facebook and Instagram. So
By the way, the only thing that's not on the website is her name.
there's even a photo
It's
of
not
me
there.
on the about page.
Yeah, I know.
You saw
I
the
know.
photo of me?
You,
It doesn't.
you just
I
you
think
are
it says
behind
the
the
camp director. Like
know.
someone made me. So
So he made you.
I
Yeah,
think
that's just kind of who you are, Justin. So thank you so much for taking the time. I know you had a really busy day today, and really, my heart is, and my hope and my prayers this year is really different in a lot of really good ways.
thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah.